It started with a watch. Nothing too extravagant, just sleek enough to feel like success. I was standing in front of the mirror, twisting my wrists like some kind of Wall Street executive, pretending I was further ahead than I really was. It wasn't about telling time, it was about telling a story, one I thought the world needed to believe before I had actually lived it. And for a moment, it worked. I felt elevated, like I was finally part of the club. But underneath that surface level dopamine hit was something quieter, an itch I couldn't quite scratch. Because deep down, I knew the truth. I had no business buying that watch. Not with my bank account, not with the debt I was already juggling. That moment was just the beginning. You see, acting rich doesn't announce itself like a scam. It feels like confidence. It feels like arrival. But it's not arrival, it's avoidance of our real situation, of what wealth actually means. And for most of us, it's a trap disguised as progress. We think dressing the part will lead to becoming the part. But what if that performance is exactly what's holding us back? I used to think success was something you could wear. Nice shoes, luxury logo, the right cologne, just add a leased car and a downtown apartment, and boom, instant credibility. I didn't realize I was just repeating the script society had handed me since I was a kid. That wealth looked a certain way, that status meant visibility, that people would only take you seriously if you looked like someone who'd already made it. But here's the punchline. I wasn't building wealth, I was renting it for attention. Every purchase, every swipe of the card was a silent agreement to stay stuck. And I'm not the only one. You scroll through social media, and it's everywhere, people broadcasting a lifestyle they can barely afford while quietly drowning in monthly payment. And the worst part? We don't even question it, because we've been programmed to believe that image is everything, that appearing wealthy is the same as being wealthy. But wealth isn't what you show, it's what you keep, what you build, what you protect. And when the image becomes the priority, the foundation rots underneath. So the question becomes, who are we really trying to impress, and why do their opinions cost us so much? I had a friend once, we'll call him Jake, always dressed sharp, drove a new Mercedes, ordered the most expensive thing on the menu without even glancing at the price. You'd think he was making six figures easy. But one night, after a few drinks, he admitted something. He was 2 months behind on rent. That car? Leased. The clothes? On credit. The lifestyle? A house of cards held up by late payments and the desperate hope that his next paycheck would cover the lie. Jake wasn't alone. He was just one version of a silent epidemic. People spending money they don't have to impress people who don't care in a game that has no finish line. A $1,000 handbag when you've got $400 in checking, a $4,000 vacation on a 22% APR credit card. That kind of math doesn't just slow you down, it buries you, and yet it feels like progress. That's the cruel part. Because acting rich scratches the same itch as being rich, at least for a while, until the bills hit, until the anxiety creeps in, until the purchases stop feeling like freedom and start feeling like chains. And every swipe of the card becomes a silent deal. More debt for more illusion. How many times have we told ourselves, I deserve this, without ever asking if our future self can afford it? It's easy to see the price tag. What we don't see are the interest payments, the monthly minimums, the peace of mind slipping through our fingers. Pretending to be rich isn't just expensive, it's compounding. Every unnecessary expense today is stealing from tomorrow's freedom. Think about it. That $200 dinner on a credit card doesn't just cost $200. It costs you in lost investment potential, in credit score hits, in sleepless nights wondering how to juggle rent and bills, and over time, it adds up not just in numbers, but in stress and limitation and invisible weight you carry every single day. Most people don't realize it until it's too late, until their bank account hits single digits and they're still dressed like success, until the freedom they thought they were buying turns out to be debt in disguise. We're not taught to run the real math. The opportunity cost of every flashy purchase, the compound interest of every missed investment. Because here's the truth, no one teaches in school. Every dollar you use to impress others is a dollar stolen from your own future. And if that future could talk, it wouldn't be impressed, it'd be begging you to stop. So ask yourself, is the lifestyle you're chasing building you up or breaking you down from the inside? You'd be shocked how many high earners are broke. I'm not talking about people struggling on minimum wage. I'm talking about professionals making six figures who still live paycheck to paycheck. The kind of people who post poolside selfies, wear designer labels, and sip overpriced cocktails on weekends, but secretly panic when their car makes a weird noise because they can't afford another emergency. It's called being rich broke. On the outside, they've made it. On the inside, they're one missed payment away from chaos. And the craziest part, many of them don't even realize it. Because when everyone around you is doing the same spending to signal success, it feels normal, expected, safe. But it's not safe. It's just silent financial decay. No savings, no cushion, no plan. Just a high income feeding a high maintenance lifestyle. They make more, so they spend more, until there's nothing left. Lifestyle inflation is a thief. It steals the gap between what you earn and what you keep. And without that gap, wealth is impossible. So while the world claps for their curated image, their bank accounts are screaming for help, the question isn't how much you make. It's how much you keep and what you do with it. And that means some of the richest people you know might actually be the poorest. I used to wonder why I cared so much about what people thought. Why I'd buy new clothes before every event. Why I'd order the expensive drink even when I didn't want it. Why I felt embarrassed driving an old car, even though it ran perfectly fine. It wasn't about the stuff, it was about approval. Somewhere along the line, I tied my worth to perception. Maybe it started in school, where the cool kids wore the best shoes. Or at home, hearing adults talk about success in terms of what he drives or where she shops. Over time, I learned the rules. To be respected, you had to be seen as someone who had money even if you didn't. And brands knew that. They fed the hunger. They turned status into a subscription. They didn't just sell products, they sold identity. They whispered, "This watch means power, these shoes mean belonging, this car means you've made it." But here's the dangerous part. When your self-worth depends on being perceived as rich, you'll sabotage your actual wealth just to protect the illusion. You'll spend to feel valuable. And every dollar you burn trying to impress others is a vote of insecurity, not abundance. Until we ask why we crave approval so badly, we'll keep paying for the mask instead of investing in the mirror. Flex culture is loud, but it's not powerful. It's fragile, built on the need to be noticed, liked, envied. I used to scroll through my feed seeing people post their new cars, their luxury vacations, their $200 dinners with captions like "hard work pays off," and for a while I believed it. I thought this was the reward for grinding. But then I started noticing something. The loudest people about their money were often the ones barely hanging on. Their flexes weren't confidence, they were camouflage, a desperate attempt to look like they were winning even as their finances were falling apart. And the more I studied it, the clearer it became. Flex culture isn't wealth culture, it's poverty culture in disguise. Because true wealth doesn't need applause, it doesn't need validation. It sits quietly in a paid-off home, takes calm breaths when the market dips, and sleeps well at night knowing there's a 6-month emergency fund. Flex culture trades that peace for attention, for followers, for status points that expire as soon as the algorithm forgets you. So the next time you see someone showing off, ask yourself, are they showcasing abundance or hiding the fear of being invisible? Because in the game of wealth, silence usually wins. I met a guy quiet, unassuming, drove a uno 0-year-old Toyota. He wore simple clothes, never flashed anything, and half the time you'd forget he was even in the room. But then one day, over lunch, I learned he owned 3 properties outright. No mortgage. His investment account? 7 figures. Early retirement? Already done. That's when it hit me. I'd been chasing the wrong role model. While I was trying to look successful, he was becoming it, not through hacks or hustle culture or some flashy course, just by living below his means, investing consistently, and ignoring the noise. He wasn't broke because he wasn't spending. He was wealthy because he didn't need to prove anything. It's called stealth wealth. And it's the real millionaire playbook. No brand obsession, no leased cars, no designer pressure, just a quiet accumulation of assets while the rest of the world plays dress up with debt. The irony? The more you look rich, the less you usually are. And the less you care about looking rich, the faster you get there. I used to think wealth looked like excess. Now I know it often looks like discipline. And the people winning this game, you never notice them because they're too busy playing it right. Social media has turned our finances into performance art. We post the best angle of our lives, add a filter, and wait for validation to roll in. Vacations look effortless. Dinners look decadent. Even struggle is romanticized, rise and grind, captions under pictures of $8 lattes and luxury gyms. But behind every curated post is the truth. We're comparing our real life to someone else's highlight reel. I remember seeing someone I followed on Instagram flying first class, sipping champagne, tagging expensive hotels. For a moment, I felt like I was falling behind, like I had to catch up. But a few weeks later, I found out they'd maxed out 2 credit cards for that trip just to get content. That's the trap. When we mistake appearance for progress, we start spending not for joy or freedom, but for optics. To keep up, to fit in. But you know what that gets us? Stress, resentment, and a financial reality we're too ashamed to talk about. Comparison used to just steal joy. Now it steals our bank accounts too. The truth is, no one's posting their credit card balance. No one's showing the anxiety behind the scenes. So maybe we need to stop chasing illusions and start building something real. Because wealth doesn't live in your feed, it lives in your habits. There were nights I'd stare at my online cart, finger hovering over buy now, heart racing. Not because I needed what was in it, but because I needed to feel something. Control, comfort, confidence. For a few moments, spending felt like healing. Like proof I was doing okay even when everything inside me felt off. That's emotional spending. And it's one of the most expensive coping mechanisms we carry. Maybe you've done it too. Bought something after a bad day, rewarded yourself for a win you hadn't truly earned, splurged after a fight or a moment of self-doubt just to fill the silence with something new, something shiny. But the thing is, those purchases don't fix anything. They just distract us from the deeper stuff, from the insecurity, the burnout, the unspoken belief that we're not enough unless we look like we're thriving. And the danger? Over time, acting rich becomes a form of self-medication, a temporary high that always ends in regret and an overdraft notice. I had to learn that healing doesn't come in a package. Self-worth isn't on sale, and sometimes the best thing you can buy is nothing at all. Because every emotional purchase is a debt paid in silence. Real wealth is quieter than I expected. It doesn't flash, it doesn't boast, it doesn't walk into a room needing to be noticed. It sits comfortably in the background, calm, confident, and uninterested in validation. I used to think money was about freedom to buy anything. Now I understand it's about the freedom to not need to. You know what actual rich people talk about? Time, simplicity, peace. They obsess over efficiency, not extravagance, over how much they can opt out of, not how much they can cram in. Their house might not be on Zillow's trending list. Their clothes? Unbranded. Their dinner? Home cooked. But their investments? Working silently every day. Because real wealth isn't loud. It's a paid-off mortgage, a growing portfolio, full night's sleep, and it's often boring. It's saying no to parties so you can stay home and read. It's packing lunch while others DoorDash daily. It's driving a used car so you can max out your Roth IRA. Boring, yes, but powerful. And over time, those boring decisions compound into something flex culture never will, actual freedom. So if wealth feels unexciting, maybe that means you're finally doing it right. No one told me that wealth was a timeline, not a moment. I thought you just made a lot of money one day and boom, you were rich. But it's not like that. Wealth doesn't show up overnight. It shows up after 1,000 tiny decisions no one claps for. After years of saying no to now, so you can say yes to later. The first time I invested $100, it felt useless, insignificant, like a drop in the ocean. But I did it again the next month, and then I learned about compound interest, how money builds like a snowball, quietly growing as long as you give it time and patience. That's when everything changed. I stopped chasing quick wins. I stopped needing to prove anything. I stopped trying to look rich because I was finally playing the long game to become it. The truth is, if you're under 40 and still broke, that's not failure, that's normal. The question is, are you giving future you a fighting chance? Wealth isn't built in a week. It's built in who you become over a decade. So yeah, live modestly now. Let your friends clown you for skipping the trip or driving the beater car. Let them win the short game. Because 5, 10 years from now, you won't be flexing. You'll be free. There's a moment that sticks with me. A group dinner, everyone laughing, ordering drinks, passing menus without a second glance, and then the check came. I froze. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I didn't want to. I didn't want to spend $80 on a night I didn't even enjoy, just to keep the vibe going. But I paid anyway. Smiled. Played along. Because deep down, I was scared of being that person. The one who says, hey, I'm out, I'm budgeting. And that's the trap. We don't just buy things we can't afford. We agree to them socially. We get caught in unspoken rules, the birthday gift minimum, the let's split it evenly, the destination wedding no one can actually afford. We spend to stay included, to stay normal, but normal is broke. And if you don't set boundaries, your finances will be shaped by the expectations of people who won't be there when your credit card bill hits. I had to learn how to say no, to decline politely, to change the subject, to stop apologizing for wanting to be free instead of impressive. Because wealth isn't built in isolation, but it does require you to be okay standing alone sometimes. And the moment you stop needing permission is the moment you start gaining power. One day, I sat down and asked myself a brutal question. Do I want to look rich or be rich? It sounds simple, but it wrecked me. Because up until that point, my choices were screaming, look, the shoes, the dinners, the apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and floor-to-ceiling debt. I was chasing applause instead of security, validation instead of value. And here's the twist. The people I was trying to impress, they didn't care. They weren't paying attention. They were too busy trying to look rich themselves. It was like we were all in costume, playing characters in a play no one was actually watching. So I made a decision. I chose to be rich even if no one could see it yet. That meant eating cheap, investing consistently, saying no more than yes. It meant being misunderstood, underestimated, even mocked. But it also meant that, for the first time, I was free. Because once you realize that the rich-looking life is often just debt with a filter, you start designing a life no one else has to approve of. One that works, even when no one's clapping. The world gives you two paths: impress others or empower yourself. But never both. These days, I don't wear wealth, I carry it. Not in my clothes or car, but in my decisions. In the calm I feel when an unexpected bill hits. in the power of walking past something flashy and knowing I don't need it to feel whole, in the quiet confidence that my money is working while I sleep. I don't need strangers to think I'm successful, because success isn't in their hands, it's in mine. It's the freedom to leave a job I hate, the option to help a friend without checking my balance, the sleep that comes from knowing I own my time. And no, it's not glamorous. It's not always Instagrammable, but it's real, and it's mine. So if you're still stuck in the trap of flexing, of pretending, of spending for approval, I get it. I've been there. But I promise you, the silence of real wealth is louder than the applause of fake riches. Let them chase the image. You build the life. Because the richest version of you doesn't need to be seen